I'm going to put wonderful, conservative, good, solid, brilliant judges.
And you're going to lay those out?
In the form of Scalia. I'm going to actually lay them out. I'm going to discuss people. I'm going to actually, I've met with a couple of Heritage and a couple of groups. I think before the convention, I want great intellect. These people are all of very high intellect. They're pro-life. And so that's my list. And we are going to choose from, most likely from this list, but at a minimum, we will keep people within this general realm.
Well, Donald Trump in our interview, and then Donald Trump with Hannity, you can see tonight, talking about this list that he put out today of potential Supreme Court nominees that he would, he says, perhaps put forward. A list, you heard him there, kind of give himself a little wiggle room, saying not definitively, but and experts who've looked at this list say the list is pretty strong, and they're very conservative. Our own Judge Napolitano said each of these people would fit the bill of someone Goldwater, Reagan would put forward. Meantime, new Fox News polls out tonight. The big one that we showed you earlier was Donald Trump with a lead, turning what had been a deficit around against Hillary Clinton. You take a look at the favorable, unfavorables inside this poll. Here's Donald Trump's now favorable 41, unfavorable 56. It has changed since March. And then here's Hillary Clinton's favorable, unfavorables. Look at her unfavorables at 61%. That has changed as well a little bit. With that, let's bring in our panel. Jonah Goldberg, senior editor at National Review. Amy Walter, national editor for the Cook Political Report. And Lisa Booth, columnist for the Washington Examiner. Thanks for being here. Amy, start with you. First, this move, and does it do the unity trick for the party?
With the judges. Yeah, listen, and I think your poll is also showing this, that winning has helped to bring the party together almost more than anything else. And I think the best thing that Donald Trump has done in this last day and a half is that he's actually stayed on message. Right? He's doing the sorts of things that disciplined
TV.
And off TV. He's doing the thing that disciplined candidates do. There is a very good point, Jonah. Exactly, which is he's doing this. That's what a disciplined candidate does. Says, I have a message. I have a focus for today. It's going to be all about judges. He's letting the story be about judges and conservatives accepting them and lauding him for this. A good poll coming out. This is a very good day. Can he keep this disciplined and keep his campaign focused on these sorts of things day in and day out for the next 6 months? That, to me, is the bigger question mark.
John.
Yeah, no, it's a solid list. It's a good list. He actually, I don't know if I'm making news here, he also reached out to National Review, a magazine that's been pretty critical of him, asking for judges. I don't know if all these names are on it, but you know, in my crowd, there are a few stars on here. There are a few stars missing. Paul Clement should have been on the list. But I don't think anyone can criticize him for the content of it. And this was a very smart thing to do. Among conservatives who are opposed or are resistant to Trump, the single most powerful argument is, what about the Supreme Court? At the same time, I think it is a classic Trump thing that he gives himself wiggle room. And he says, it'll probably be sort of like this list, representative of this list. It's sort of like he now says that the Muslim ban is a suggestion. And I think there are going to be some people who are going to look at that and say, okay, this is just another negotiating ploy.
Most likely from this list is what he told Sean Hannity.
Well, so he's giving himself an out on this list, too. And the concern among a lot of conservatives is that, you know, if a President Trump were negotiating with a Chuck Schumer-run Senate, and Donald Trump wants to build lots of things and put his name on them, would he be willing to trade a Supreme Court justice, a David Souter type?
But, you know, he's saying kind of definitively that even if it's not on this list, it will fit this list and the type of people that's
I agree, but I think he just should have. I think the smarter move would have just said, this is the list, you know, and he could have made the list longer if he's worried about that. But I think, look, this will only help him. It was a smart thing to do.
No Hispanics on that list.
No, there aren't. But, I mean, look, this is a smart move politically for Donald Trump. And for someone who said that he wasn't as concerned about consolidating the Republican base, it sure looks like he's taking the steps to do that. I mean, he just had that meeting with prominent Republicans in Congress and prominent Republican leaders indicating that he's willing to play ball. He wants to talk to them. He wants to bring them to the table. He's meeting with Henry Kissinger to talk about foreign policy, an issue that is very important to a lot of Republicans. And now he's releasing this list of Supreme Court potential nominees, showing conservatives, sort of showing his hand and saying that he would want to move forward with a conservative Supreme Court nominee. So I think these are important steps to bring Republicans to the table.
Are we far from a VP choice, do you think, that he's not going to save that either to the convention? Because the going thought was that he was going to save some of these things to roll them out right before Cleveland.
Well, who knows with Donald Trump? I mean, he sort of just does what he wants to do. That's what we've seen. So I think his vice presidential choice is going to be really interesting. So I think a lot of people would say that a female candidate would be very important for him, would help him, especially move his numbers with women voters, also give him a little softer touch because he is, a tough character. But who knows? He has indicated that he wants someone within the system, a politician, maybe someone who's currently serving in Congress. But it'll be interesting to see who he chooses.
Okay, so on your point about women, the Fox News poll, number 7, among women, favorable, unfavorable, 33-63. And then you have Republican women, and it is number 8. It is favorable, 65-31, and the change there from March. So, he's making some headway in moving those numbers.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best news for Donald Trump in this poll is that the talk of we're going to find a third party, there's going to be a place for people who don't like Donald Trump. There's not a whole lot of room in this poll for another candidate. That Republican elites or Republican members of Congress may not love the idea of running with Donald Trump on the ticket, but Republican voters, at least at this point, are ready to get behind it.
Is that over, Jonah? I mean, today we had Romney say, a source say, Governor Romney is not now engaged in recruiting a third-party candidate. We've had several people saying they are not going to do that, despite talk and effort from Bill Kristol and Ben Sass and others.
Yeah, I personally would be open to a third-party candidate if you could point to the person who it would be. We're living in a moment that is very personality-driven in politics. You're talking about this poll, and I think Amy is exactly right, but there was another poll this week that said a large majority of Americans wish they had another option.
Although, let me just point out that poll said, would you be open to an independent run against Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton? And so, yes,
yeah,
sure.
No, but that's the problem.
Who is this Santa Claus?
And there's no viable path. A lot of the filing deadlines, Texas has already passed.
You could make the case.
But
you could go to
there's
court.
a dozen. By the time the convention rolls around, a dozen will have passed. I mean, it's very. And you also have to talk about funding. It's going to be very difficult. Ross Perot managed to get on all 50 states, was able to pick up a proportion of the popular vote, but he wasn't able to get any electoral college votes. It's very difficult to get on the ballot, to get access,
I agree with
to raise money, to have money.
Minus the logistics.
Republicans are defending 24 Senate seats. Why not put the attention there and put the money and resources to defending those seats?
Well, I think because a lot of people find Trump fundamentally unacceptable as the leader of their own party.
Well, and I respect those opinions of those individuals.
Okay. But I mean, you just asked for the question. You asked the question. That's the answer. And so I think the problem is that it's like waiting for Godot. There is no compelling, charismatic personality, and that's what you would need. You can't just have a placeholder. You need someone who would really galvanize people to conquer a lot of the problems that you point out about ballot access and all the rest, where people could write it in with enthusiasm, and we don't have that personality out there. That's the biggest stumbling block for the third party thing and has been for a very long time.
Yeah.